Good morning, Vikings fans. This is Morning Joe's, and I am your host, Joe Johnson, owner of PurplePTSD.com, VikingsTerritory.com, and PurpleTerritoryRadio.com. Here with, as always, Mr. Joe O.D. Oberly.
Good morning.
Joe is the editor of the aforementioned network. We don't sound too happy, but we should be because we have a very special guest on the show this morning. Vikings legend, Vodka magnate, Mr. Chad Greenway.
Chad, how are you?
Good, guys. You guys sound like you had a funeral today. It's really not that bad, guys. You got to fire up. We're early in the year.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we hear, Chad. I mean, it's doom and gloom out here. Everywhere you go, everybody's writing the epitaph to this season and this team. But you're saying it's not there yet?
Oh my gosh, you guys are so dramatic. It's you got to be in the friendly confines of TCO Performance Center to truly get a glimpse into that world. I mean, you have to understand. We have a lot of things to talk about on the negative side, but those are two impossible places to go into and win. Just historically, and even when we have good playoff caliber seasons, 11-5 seasons, 12-4 seasons, we rarely go to those two places and have a lot of success. So the fact that you guys are expecting different results, albeit we have a great football team and on paper a really good football team. Just let's let this thing play out. Let's get to the halfway mark and see where we're at. 2-2 is not the end of the world.
So we should RELAX. Is that what you're saying? Relax.
I'm not gonna buy into that marketing with the whole Rodgers bit. I don't watch Packer news, but no. We just need. It's about the next week. I mean, it always is in the NFL. It's about what's coming next in front of you. Get the next one. Get back on track, and we can be singing a completely different tune next week, 7 days from right now. With oh my God, they looked like this, and the defense was amazing, and making plays, and good things happened, and tip balls and interceptions, and you just don't know. That's the NFL world, and unless you are a fan of the Patriots, everybody else is like you. So just buckle up. It's a long season.
It really is a week-to-week league, and things, like you said, can change in a week. And why is that, Chad? I mean, how come? What's behind the changing of readiness to play? How well a team looks, or what have you? Why does that happen from week to week so dramatically?
I'll add really quickly on that too. It's hard to find the positive because a lot of the feedback we get from readers is hyper negative and reactionary, and I mean it makes sense for people to do something online. They have to be emotionally engaged to get there. They're either really happy or really mad, and more often than not on the internet they're mad. And so there's a lot of people saying things about Zimmer getting the team quote unquote ready to play for big games. There's a few examples of that. Even the 49ers game a few seasons ago, I think it was a nationally televised game where the you guys came out flat. The Bears game last year, the Eagles game, so on and so forth. So just tying into what Joe said with those examples, that's kind of like a big thing. Are you a strong believer in the coach needing to get players, adult men, up to play in that regard?
Oh my gosh, you guys couldn't have had me on a better time. So this whole idea that the negativity, this negativity that comes from fans, and that's understanding, right? We're in the entertainment business. We're not perfect. We are entertainers. You are buying an opportunity to either watch, pay attention, go to a game, buy a jersey. That's up to you. That's on you. So for you to be super negative, you've been a fan since '61. You've been the whole thing. I understand that. But you have to understand at the same time that the exact same fan base in Chicago or in Green Bay, they're going through the same things. And, the ups and downs, and yes, the success is maybe greater in certain spots than others. But, over the course of, 50 years of football plus here in Minnesota, we obviously haven't won the big one. We've had our fair share of success. We've had a fair share of misery. It's about that's what being a fan is, the ups and downs. Now, the super negativity, that's what social media is given now, is everybody an opportunity to be just super negative and just clomp on everything. that they see that they don't think that they agree with. Now it goes back to the old adage as a player, me putting my player helmet on. It's like, listen, you guys can be as negative as you want. You can bring all that attention to negativity, but if you think that's going to help in some way, well, that's obviously wrong, especially this part of the season. If you think that those guys in that locker room aren't negative enough on themselves, every play, every misstep, every missed tackle, every bad throw, every fumble, every negative, we look at those plays with much more of a discerning eye than any fan. And we're much harder on ourselves than any one person out there could be on us. And to me, going back to my career, nobody was more negative on themselves, than me. If I made a mistake, trust me, I knew it the moment it happened. I didn't need a fan to reach out and tell me. And, the one thing that you can be negative on Zimmer if you want, but the reality is if you want a head coach that's going to sit in that locker room or sit in those team meeting rooms and hold every person accountable for their mistakes, including Kirk Cousins, including Adrian Peterson back in the day when I was playing with him, he's the guy that's going to do that.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think that, I don't care if we come back from a tough loss in Chicago, I guarantee you those boys sat in that room together as a whole team and went over about 15 negative plays and pointed out specific examples of where guys need to do better for this team to have a chance to win. And that's true accountability. And then you can all sit there, behind your desk and wonder, well, what if that happened to me at my work? I have a feeling that your boss, your employer, your constituents would find some negativity in your workload, would find some negativity in your performance. But the difference is you're not in the entertainment world. So we know we live under that microscope. So you just have to have that perspective of we all care a whole hell of a lot about what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because in our world, if you don't perform, you're gone. And not many people live in that world like we do.
It's interesting.
So that's from a player's perspective, kind of that whole thought process.
For the social media and everybody paying attention and really diving deep on everything, as soon as one mistake happens, maybe once or twice, it becomes a trend, and then it becomes a snowball rolling down a hill, and I think that really builds upon itself, and that's not how the players can look at it, I suspect, but that's how everybody else does, and I think it really does a disservice to analyzing the game, because like you said, you make a mistake and you know it, and you try to go and try to fix it, but what we do from Sunday to Sunday is perseverate on one thing and say, oh my God, this is happening, and now this person is bad, and he should be gone, and I think it's too much in this day and age. Do you agree?
Well, I think to some point, though, and this is kind of in contrast to what I just said, but to some point, people aren't as good as other people. There's better players, and that's the thing is I think as fans, you guys we're all knowledgeable fans because we see so much information, so much content. We're able to watch so much film and see things back on what players make mistakes, and so that's in front of us. Right. So the reality is, there's better players out there at positions where we need to improve. Right. I mean, that's the reality. Mm-hmm. So when you know that and we have all this knowledge, we think we have the answers, and you think that you can just make this change, or you have this expectation they need to be kind of taken care of right away, because in our world now, it's all push of a button and we get reactions. So, I'll say this, after watching the games, there's a whole heck of a lot we can do a whole lot better. And the things we're doing, the mistakes we're making, especially in the two games that we've lost, which is, one we're concerned about, starting fast certainly was a problem in Green Bay. I don't think it was a huge issue in Chicago. Chicago was just an ugly, ugly game, offensively, most importantly. Defensively, get a little wore down, got to get our butts off the field. You understand that. But, this to me, this doesn't fall on, kind of back to the original question I kind of missed, is this doesn't fall on Mike Zimmer to get his team prepared to play in the first quarter of Green Bay. These are grown men that have to get ready to play. This is their livelihood. I can promise you Zimmer put his best foot forward on preparing those guys that week for Green Bay to get off the bus and go play. Now, could he have gotten scripted that first 20 plays and they get a score and he didn't react quick enough? Now, we could argue that point, but to not have the guys ready, that's not really on him, in my opinion. But obviously, as you get scripted in the first 15 to 20 snaps of a football game, now that falls on Zim to react, and he did. I think maybe a little late, but because they had the first 3 drives and they scored, and we get behind. But the reality is he, look at the last 3 quarters of that game.
Yeah.
To say he didn't make changes and impact that game, from a defensive standpoint and play calling is ridiculous.
How difficult is it to?
So I think.
Go ahead.
What's that?
I was just going to say, how difficult is it to? You talk about reacting. React mid-game when Trubisky goes down, and then Chase Daniels comes in. It looks like they weren't exactly ready for that. How difficult is that for a defense to change gears? I mean, are you preparing for something like that as it comes?
I don't think that's a factor. I really don't. I don't think that Chicago changed what they were going to do based off who played quarterback. I just don't believe that.
That's a good point.
And I don't think that that whole. I give credit to Chicago and Chase Daniel for coming and making the throws, making the plays. Because listen, we know a lot of bad backup quarterbacks out there. And I have to say, when Trubisky went down, I'm licking my chops like, here we go.
Yeah.
Right. Let's get to a point we can start pressuring this guy, and but credit him, man. I mean, you got to at some point you have to realize these guys are all good, right? For the most part, that dude stepped up and played. I mean, he really did. And to me, what I saw is a lack of pressure up front on our side, especially immediate pressure, push up the middle, people in his face to really, hey, let's make Chase Daniel uncomfortable. He didn't look uncomfortable to me.
What do you attribute that to?
And when you have, you have to
play calling
look at the basics,
or
right? The obvious thing is, well, we never got in a position to really blitz him a lot and get into our blitz schemes and kind of get to that level, especially with the way the drives were going. And when we did, now given we did get home maybe a few times, but for the most part the pressure wasn't, enough. So you got to credit their O-line for holding up under what we thought was a big advantage for us on the defensive front. I mean, I would have said that going in. And so you got to credit them and credit their protection schemes. And the one thing you could say maybe from a coaching standpoint that we got out-coached on was just attacking their protections and getting people in front of Chase Daniel when it became him as a quarterback to really make him uncomfortable, make him throw that errant pass we were all waiting for him to make. But look at the guys how they score, right? Tariq Cohen on Anthony Barr. Love Anthony, he's a stud. He's a problem for offenses to block. It makes a ton of plays. But Tariq Cohen against Anthony Barr is not a great matchup for us. I mean, he's not a good matchup for any linebacker in the league. So, I mean, they got their guys in the right spots. You could see it in the second half adjustment there as they started clamping Anthony with Harrison coming down and kind of doubling Tariq Cohen out of the backfield, which is a good adjustment to make. And now they kind of inside and out him, and then they have two people on him. So, he runs an option route and has both ways to go. We have him covered both ways. So, I don't know. It was frustrating to watch as a fan because it was ugly. It was not really a fun game to watch in general. Kind of taking it back to that Chicago-Green Bay game, the opener of the season. Just a clomper, right? Not fun to watch at all. But that's how they play in Soldier Field, man.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I bring it up a lot on one of your. You've been on the show. This is your third appearance, I believe, and you talked about
strange things
going into Soldier Field, especially. It's kind of in the back of your mind a little bit more than perhaps most people would think, or would at least have heard the opposite from when players or coaches are talking football speak.
Chad, you mentioned just to dovetail on something we already touched on. You mentioned if you're not the New England Patriots, you're just like everybody else. So how come they're different? What's the difference? Personnel?
I think obviously they're different for two main reasons. Well, three reasons. Obviously we could sit here and talk about Kraft and his issues, in the off season, but from ownership to head coach to quarterback, right? They all align. The three biggest people in that building, as far as decision makers and impactful people or groups, are all aligned. You have a quarterback that essentially could require as much money as he could ask for with the amount of success he's had, even at 42 years old, and he chooses essentially to not ever make that an issue. You have a head coach that never lets one guy get bigger than the team, and it has that mentality since day one. And even though Tom Brady is 42, he grew up in that world of fully respecting Belichick and what he brings to the table as a coach and that success that comes with it. So I can imagine even their film room on Monday after a game, if they play well or they play poorly or if Brady makes a mistake, I bet he's still calling his butt out, regardless of how many Super Bowls he's won. And that's how they keep their edge of accountability. And their mentality is who's coming in next and who's going to do their job. If you're not going to do your job, we're going to find somebody that will. And they just, look at Chandler Jones, just sent to Arizona, all these players that come through, they just don't care. about the individuals. They cared about the team. And then you look at Belichick, and he always finds a way to craft a defensive plan, especially early in this season. They've been incredibly good.
Yeah.
But over the course of his tenure there, he's always found a way to put a game plan together that's successful in big games. And he's always done that. That's really his background. So it's essentially Zimmer with, in my opinion, how he runs his ship. That's really how Zimmer wants to be, with an elite quarterback that wins every big game he's ever put in front of. And I really feel like our ownership, albeit maybe not quite, they're not nearly probably as cutthroat as what Kraft has been, because Kraft really lets Belichick make those calls, and that's Belichick's mentality. But that's where the success comes from, in my opinion. And it's putting the right bodies around it. But it's almost the opposite of what you might think, right? It's less ego, more control from the head coach, and bringing in the players who are going to fit your system, and then just playing.
And speaking of big games, quarterbacks winning big games, that's one of the knocks that people have, put against Cousins, and there's that stat of his record against teams with above a 500 record. What do you see from him as a linebacker? He started out the season, and I think a lot of people forget this, a lot of the anti-Cousins people online, if you want to call them that, which I do, because I was and still am a big Cousins guy. He started out amazing last year. It's just that the defense was slow to get going. There was no run game. The offensive line was what it was, and then as the season wore on, the defense got better. The run game didn't. He kind of got happy feet and gun shy a little bit, it seemed like. And from the way that this season has started, especially in the Bears game where he was pressured a lot, it seems like he's still got some of that happy feet, gun shy situation going on. Is that what you're seeing, or is it deeper than that? I assume it is.
I don't give him as much blame, especially with dealing with the pressure this Sunday. I really feel like we have a lot of offensive line issues in that regard, and it was more physical. I mean, they were more physical than us. They got to the quarterback. They pushed people back in his feet to kind of make him, it's really hard to not be antsy and jumping around and have happy feet when there's people literally always around you.
Yeah.
If he was having a clean pocket and had open throws to make, and then he was just deciding to run out of the pocket because he just was doing it, now you put that on him. But it's a combination. It always is. It's never one person. And I've actually been relatively critical of Kirk Cousins as well. And not from I like Kirk. I think it was a great deal they got here. I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of people are going to hate that statement. But the reality is we've always missed, since you go back to even my time and before, since Culpepper, we've never had a franchise quarterback that could come in and say, he's our guy. We're moving on beyond the fact of what's the discussion here. It's just he's our guy.
Have you heard that stat?
My entire 11 years.
The stat, really quickly, sorry to interrupt you, that since 1978, there hasn't been a Vikings quarterback that has started 2 seasons in a row and played the full 16 games each season.
Yeah, and you want to look to, why we haven't had, enduring success, right? That would probably be the number one reason. When you ask me why the Patriots are so good, they've had the exact same quarterback doing the exact same thing for 20 years.
Yeah.
That's part of the reality. That's crazy. So, but the reality is, and we have to live in reality, is he's not playing well enough to win football games, especially tough ones on the road. He just isn't. And and he knows that, and we all know that as fans, and whether you're the guy that says, I called it, I knew he was going to be this, well, that's great for you that you called it, you think you're so smart. The reality is he's just not playing that way right now. And
he lost.
Do you think he can get there? I think a lot of us think he can get there. But it can't all be on him either. And he, I think what he's really been better at this year is and I think where he's going to gain a lot of fans, at least he should, if fans are thinking properly, is that he's understanding that he's making mistakes and he's noticing them, and he's wanting to correct them.
Yeah.
And he's saying, hey, I missed, he came up with Thielen in his podcast. He said, hey, I missed you here, I missed you there, missed these opportunities. To me, that just shows a level of kind of humanizing himself to say, listen, I'm not perfect. I don't think I'm perfect. I know I'm highly paid, and I got to play better. At least to me as a fan, looking back, yeah, okay, at least he gets it. At least he's not living in this world of, delusion. Because I think some fans believe that we live in that world of just I make a lot of money. I don't care what fans think. to me, being self-aware and being like, listen, I know I got to play better, and I played like, horse crap in Soldier Field. Let's tighten it up and get going. So he knows that, he understands it, but he's got to play better. I loved what they did at the end of the game, and I almost wish you could kind of reverse the game and let him get comfortable. We go to a 2-minute hurry up type of
no
situation.
huddle.
Now, given they're playing prevent defense and playing zone behind, so they're kind of letting them catch and run. But still, just to let Kirk get a little more comfortable, right? And when you put the defense on their heels, all of a sudden you pick up a first down or 2 first downs, and you get a little momentum. Now your quarterback gets hot and gets going, because I think we can all agree that we know he has the arm ability and talent to make every throw.
Yeah.
We know when he gets on a rhythm and can start making throws, we have the receivers, we have the quarterback, we have the running back to make this thing go. So you almost want to look at, if we're going to place blame, you got to look, okay, O-line, Kirk. You almost want to look at, and I love Stefanski, he's my dude, but you almost have to look there and say, hey, okay, maybe we need to put our people in better situations. And whether that's coming from Zimmer down to Stefanski, say this is the type of football team I want to have offensively, so let's do it until we can't do it, and then we'll try to figure something else out, because that could be happening as well.
Do you think he's lost?
That I saw.
Do you think he's lost confidence at all in anything, in his line and his coaching staff and himself? You think that's a problem?
Confidence is a constant problem in the NFL. I live that. I mean, everybody's so good that if you go and you're going to have bad weeks, you don't care if you have a Pro Bowl type of season, you're going to have bad weeks, you're going to have bad plays. Your ability to move on and just have that thick skin with yourself really comes from, to me, that level of accountability on Mondays, like we talked about, going in, watching the film in front of your buddies and saying and owning those mistakes and be like, you know what, I'm going to own it. I'm moving on. I know I'm good. I've been good. And I'm going to go find that player again. Now, Kirk, you worry about it because he's your quarterback, and confidence and quarterback confidence is very, very important, much more important than the linebackers. You want to make sure he's not shaken. And I think as a fan base now, like, it's not a better option to go to the second guy. So as a fan base, we can be as negative as we want. We're a quarter of the way through the season. Hey, let's figure it out. Let's be more positive with our quarterback. Right, and help bring him back, because the reality is we can rattle off 4, 5, 6 wins in a row, or have a really good next 4 weeks and get to a really good spot midway through the season, knowing that we can win and beat any team on our schedule.
We got to have you talk a little bit about your defense. It's the reality of the situation is the defense only gave up 16 points last week, and that's all they're giving up all season. And if you got a defense that does that, you can win a lot of games. So it's not really time we should peel back the panic a little bit for this team, shouldn't we?
I do. You look at the defense and what they've done, right? I mean, they played well when they've had to play well. If you're asking your defense to keep you in the football game last weekend, you can certainly argue they did that. I mean, I know that in that room they're disappointed. They wanted to play better, and they want to be the team to win. They want to be the part of the football team to win the football game. To get a turnover, to get that timely pick six, whatever that is, and that's what they've feasted on, and that's why the types of players we have in there are so good, because of that mentality. But again, you look at the schedule. The most disappointing part is we, if you just said, look, this schedule out, we have to go to the 2 toughest road spots we have right away in the first month. You'd have loved 3-1, right? We'd all love 3-1. We thought, I think we would, 4-0 is the best. 3-1, we'd be really, really happy with. 2-2 is kind of like, well, that's kind of what I expected, but man, I wish it was better. That's kind of where I'm at. It's kind of what I expected, but man, I wish it was better. And you wish you could find, especially both those games that come down. Green Bay's one possession. We had the ball going into score. Mistake was made. Well documented. Chicago, we just could not get anything moving and going. So again, in position to probably get that game in the fourth quarter if we want it. We go make the plays. So we're there, man. It's just, that's the frustrating part, I think, as a fan, is we're right there. You win that game, even if it's ugly in Soldier next week, this town is a completely different mentality.
You're right.
It's a completely different tone. So, and even though it was, you make one more play and you score and we win, but it's still that ugly, now you're happy because you got the win. So we're not that far away. We talk again in 2 weeks and we've won, and we're 3-3 or 2-4. Now we got problems. And then we're going to burn the whole place down. So
Chad's coming back in 2 weeks. He just said.
It's
No, I'd be happy to. Yeah, I'd be happy to
confirmed.
come back on. I mean, it's fun to chat about it, in a more casual way, and not be on the radio and stuff. It's fun to kind of break it down a little bit further and have more time to kind of get into it. So, I enjoy it, but it's one of those things. It is hard, and I think as a being more of a fan now, obviously even though I'm a former player, I have a really good perspective because I got to be honest, I had a hard time watching that myself. It was just disappointing and I hate the fact that we're not including the tight ends more in the passing game. Obviously, Kyle's great friend of mine. Would love to see him get more opportunities, especially in critical downs and distances.
I'm really surprised by that.
I thought
with Kubiak coming in
Oakland.
Yeah.
I mean, that's his game, right? You look at the tight ends in Houston and the success they had with him, and in Denver, it's like these are the type of offenses that really should support a 2 tight end system like we have.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm not in the room, so I can't say, is that on Kirk? Is that on, hey, the coach is telling me to throw the ball in these 2 spots? Is that a product of having 2 really good receivers that we're trying to force the ball to? I just don't know what that is, and I wish I had an answer for the fans. But that to me is frustrating because I think as a defender in the middle of the field, typically you have the most space. It's the easiest throw. These guys have huge bodies and can catch anything in the huge radius. It's just hard to defend that, on a simple pitch and catch. So that's kind of some frustrating things for me offensively. So I get it as a fan, right? I mean, you're kind of in that spot, and I understand that.
Yeah, my fear, and then we'll get into Friday and everything, and I just want to see if you've seen any of this, obviously, because you have that perspective, is that after the Green Bay game and the interception on first and goal from the 8, that they either would make a decision, the coaches, or Cousins would in his mind, to kind of go back to a Case Keenum, every play you have 2 options. If it's not open down the field, just dump it off. And there was the 13 completions that Cousins had against the Bears that were, for 50 yards total. A lot of dump-off passes. Right. And that obviously happens, too, when you have no time, as we saw with Bradford. But to see any of that, maybe trying to make Cousins more conservative so he's not taking those chances down the field, even though, again, to go back to the beginning of last season, some of those touchdowns he had to Thielen were like a hair away from being an interception, just perfect. If you take that away, it kind of limits, obviously, what the offense is doing. I don't know if that was just something that I wanted to see, or that, you know what I mean? Like the results reinforced my theory, or if it was just based on how the line was playing.
No, I think that's a good take and a good question, and I certainly hope not, because you want to kill somebody's confidence. You start making play calls, conservative play calls like that, because if you think those guys don't understand that and know that, you're nuts, right? You can sense and know when your coach is not believing you based off a play call.
Wow.
Right. So if that's happening, there's a lot bigger problems than we feared. So I think you look at the situation with the offensive line and just in general the lack of time, with Mac and that whole process of guys up front. And I don't think it's a bad idea to dink and dunk to get your quarterback some confidence and some shots, especially early. But you cannot take that ability to throw the ball down the football field. I love that man-to-man shot that took a Thielen early. Those are the ones we obviously all want to hit. They got really lucky on that one that we missed it. But don't lose that. When you got a 3rd and 40 or whatever that one down and distance was, and we throw a dump off screen or something, I'm like, in this day and age of penalties, like, let that thing rip down the sidelines. And what's the worst thing that can happen, right?
It's basically a punt anyway. Yeah.
Exactly. So you take a shot and let's get a PI here, right? Let's take a shot. And what do we have to lose if nothing going? So just infuse something into our football team, almost like you thought was going to happen with Digby on the big catch, and then you think, okay, here we go, right? We're going to get rolling. And so back to the question: if they're making those decisions and they're kind of making the decisions, kind of shrinking that opportunity for Kirk to be himself, then they've lost confidence in him too, and that's not going to be good for anybody. I just don't believe that's the case. I think it's just more situational.
Yeah.
I'm going to believe that until I know different.
One more quick one here, Chad. Have you ever gone into a game and you get out of, you prepared for the team all week, and you get out there and they have something completely different for you that you had no clue about. Do you guys prepare for like more than one inevitability or one game plan from the other team and say, okay, this is what we're doing. We thought they might do this, but they're doing that, so we're going to adjust to that. Or do you just have to retrench and redraw it up at halftime or in game? How does that work?
A lot of times, you kind of plan for everything right? You're not going to sit there and you don't have the time during the week and the amount of effort it's going to take to try to plan for everything. You do that, and that's what some of these teams do with kind of putting some of these gimmick stuff, and you see teams put in special teams fakes just to make the team prepare for it, just to have it, right? So if you start trying to prepare for everything, you're gonna be chasing your tail all day. So you prepare for what you know, and you come into the game feeling confident in what's going to happen. And that's the funny thing about, when the Wildcat came back a few years back, it threw everybody in uproar, and we had all these issues with the Wildcat. Well, I always liked our approach is like, listen, let's just do what we do. We're going to play our base defense. We're going to fill our gaps. We're going to play our rules, and we're going to make the tackle and move on. And that's what we did, and we never had an issue with the Wildcat because of that reason. We're not going to chase our tail. So I think when you start to see something that becomes maybe a little gimmicky or a little out of character of a team you're playing, to me, the best reaction is always go back to what we know. Because your base defenses that we work on daily throughout the year are what you know best, and you know those rules best. And then the rules within that defense can really account for everything. Now, it doesn't mean that the players are going to make the plays. It doesn't mean that you're going to not have a player miss a tackle or slip or lose contain or whatever that might be on that rule, but that's the easiest way to prepare for something rather than always go out there and try to out-game plan somebody.
So is it less of a chess game than we seem to think it is when we're looking at it?
Yeah, I think sometimes that gets a little overhyped, the chess match sort of standpoint. Because essentially, when you're talking about like a defensive call, for example, we don't make a personnel or group call defensively until we know what the offense is bringing into a huddle, right? Mm-hmm. So we see the personnel come off the sidelines. Coach Zim's going to call for a certain personnel group to counteract that. And now, they shrink their playbook by whatever, 50 to 70%. Okay, they're in this personnel grouping. Okay, now they're going to pick the huddle. Now they're in this formation out of this personnel grouping. Now you shrink your playbook another, 15%. So now it's just about cataloging and understanding what they're trying to do out of each formation, and then each motion within each formation, and then, where's everybody lined up. So, yes, it's a chess match, but it's much less of a call chess match. It's more of a pre-snap, 10 seconds before, we get the information and process it. That's where the understanding of the game and the understanding of your game film that you've watched really helps players separate themselves from everybody else. You might say, what Jim is really good at, though, and this is maybe different than other coaches, is say you get a 2nd and 5, right, on the 40-yard line going in. His understanding of what to call against that situation, knowing what the other team's going to do, that's where the chess match comes in from a play calling standpoint, relying upon Zimmer to be, that expert that we all know he is. Because, that's coming from him and his study of what they like to do in that situation. So if they're always going to run the ball away from the down safety, right, he may call something to blitz something off the other edge or whatever that might be. So, it is a chess match. It's a very, game based on strategy. But at the same time, when you're put in a position as a player, it's about making a play, and also, but it's also a situation like this weekend, like maybe, you have a guy that doesn't try to play out of body because the game's not coming to him, right? Just go force something. So there's so many different parts of this game. That's what makes it so interesting to everybody is all the moving parts and all the moving pieces and the play calling and the strategy, and that's what makes it fun. But, man, it can be frustrating when your team's not playing well.
So for those that aren't familiar, which is becoming harder and harder with how much you're getting the word out there about Grey Duck, could you explain, why you got into Vodka game and kind of what the philosophy of Grey Duck is in terms of like versus your competition and it being more locally based, that sort of thing?
The chess game for the Vodka.
It is a chess game for sure.
Yes, it certainly is. So when my partners reached out to me about about a year and a half ago now, maybe a year and about 18 months ago. They had this concept of this Grey Duck vodka brand, really a Grey Duck brand, and they wanted to base it around vodka. And the concept was started because of Kyle Rudolph's celebration in Chicago. And the idea that they actually, before that game, they had played a special on Kyle's brother who had childhood cancer. So my partner said this would be great to make a brand that was locally sourced, locally made, and bring in a charity component and have this thing be like truly community-based. So he pitched it to me first of all, I didn't want to be just a marketing guy behind it. I don't want to just go out and do events and just say, hey, I represent Grey Duck Vodka, come try this, really good. I wanted to be part of it because as my brand was built within this community, as Vikings fans, I think people thought that I tried to be as authentic and real as I could be. And, good, bad, and different, I am who I am. And I think people really resonate with people, and people like that. So I didn't want that to be any different with my brand if I was going to start a vodka brand. And so I became an owner and a partner, and I literally am in all the day-to-day operations. I'm in almost every meeting I can get to as far as, new retail spots or new business and just trying to grow our brand really daily. It's an absolute hustle. I mean, it's an everyday
it's a grind, man.
As an entrepreneur, you guys know, I mean, it's a grind. It takes a lot of work and a lot of relationships and just building that trust. And so in a little over a year now, we've made a nice niche for ourselves here in Minnesota. We're in 5 states, from North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Wisconsin.
Wisconsin,
and people have loved our product. Yeah, we're in western Wisconsin. We just launched that 2 weeks ago. So our brand is made in Benson, Minnesota. And another really, fun part for me is obviously growing up on a farm in South Dakota. We're able to support local corn farmers up there around the Benson area by buying their corn through the co-op and producing our vodka from their corn. So, that's another kind of local, play for us is our products made in Benson, which is west central Minnesota. Just think of St. Cloud and head to kind of straight west and a little north. And we bottle it in Brooklyn Park at Skullgren. And, we just try to really keep everything simple and clean. And I think the biggest thing is when you have a product that's really good, like ours is. We've won 4 gold medals now, and we won gold in every competition we've entered.
Yeah,
nice. For taste. Wow. I just think that you provide a good product that people want to get behind for the right reasons. And now it's kind of coming full circle is with our Twin Cities Summer Jam music festival opportunity this summer. We raised about $25,000 for U of M Masonic Children's Hospital.
Wow.
So we're starting to create these kind of community and charity components that truly makes the company local and community-based, which is what we were founded on. And now we're to the point where we're doing well enough that we can really start to kind of double back and do that. And we're really hoping to do a lot more of that as we move forward. We're going to kind of announce some big news for the month of October on some really good pricing deals and kind of call it our Customer Appreciation Month for the fellow who's believed in us at a young age and a young company. And, it's also, take over Minnesota. We want to be Minnesota's vodka. The Viking drinkers vodka. We want to be the vodka of all Minnesotans for all the right reasons. And if you're going to be drinking vodka in this state, we want it to come through us. And so we're going to really kind of hit that home in October. And then we have some really, really exciting stuff, fun stuff in November and December heading into the holidays. It's going to have a really nice community kickback component to it. Because this is about, our brand and growing it, and but it's also about our community and our state and all the great people here. And that's what and how we're going to separate our company from everybody else's.
If you want to be a Minnesota's vodka, you've got the right name for it then.
Exactly. That was our idea.
Yeah, and speaking of getting out in the community, we're having an event this Friday. And I've been holding up, for those watching the video stream, I've been holding up the logo for McDonald's Liquor. It's a liquor store on 34th. It's like 50th and 34th by Lake Nokomis, really close to the airport and the Mall of America. Starting at 5 o'clock. Chad will be there doing a bottle signing, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. But what I've learned from, I worked at a liquor store in college, and McDonald's Liquor happens to be one of my clients for my internet ad agency. And people are very, and I know you know this, Chad, and Joe too, because Joe works in the industry as well, as part of what they're doing at down in Mankato. There you go. People are really loyal to their brand, and I think that the number one question that I get from people when I talk to them about Mankato or Grey Duck is what is like the taste profile. Because there's different kinds of vodkas, obviously, just across the board. Even if it's an unflavored vodka, there's some is more dry, some is a little bit sweeter. How would you describe that to people who might not have tried it yet?
Yeah, so our taste, you kind of get opinions from people across the board, but our taste profile is probably best be described as just a touch sweet with a really smooth finish. So this is a vodka that can be drank completely on its own, neat, on the rocks, or it's a great mixing vodka as well. So really, any way you try this, it's going to be really good. It's not going to overpower your drink. You're not going to have any kind of a burn. This is a highly distilled, very clean, and very good grain alcohol made with our great Minnesota corn. So there's really, if you're a vodka drinker, or even if you're not a vodka drinker and like to mix and make new cocktails, this is going to be the vodka for you. We'll go side by side with anybody. You name the vodka, you name the price of that vodka.
Yeah.
We will go toe to toe with anybody on the taste, and we will always have a fair chance to win.
Yeah, it's a great price point too. I think at McDonald's Liquor it's $19.99 for a liter, $24.99 for a 175, which is a great deal.
And with that, pricing is so interesting. That's kind of one of these like learn the hard way bits is in this industry, like finding your price point and understanding how to work with retailers. It's a challenge, and it's part of that world. So we are constantly trying to, none of us are from there's four of us main partners, and none of us are from the liquor industry at all. And so there's a learning curve, and we've been able to kind of survive that learning curve, but now to kind of understand and learn the industry and now to know it, to see, hey, where can we impact our fans and our drinkers, right? And obviously everybody's impacted at the pocketbook. So we want to make sure that we're offering the best price we can.
Yeah.
To be not only competitive in the consumer market, but also, allow our company to grow the way we want to. And there's that fine tipping point that we try to find, and it's constantly working with retailers to find the best thing for that location and that spot. But people are out there wondering, man, it's a different world in this industry, and kind of fun to learn it, fun to see it, but it's something it's definitely a learning curve.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of playing chess, so Friday at 5:00, you'll be at McDonald's Liquor signing bottles of Grey Duck, and on top of that, I believe people will be able to try it.
Yes.
And also, there's going to be a silent auction. There's going to be a raffle of a whole bunch of cool Vikings memorabilia, and also a silent auction of some really cool stuff, courtesy of another sponsor of ours, Total Sports Enterprises, and a few different beers and wines to taste for people waiting in line. But it should be a great event. People can still RSVP on Facebook if you go to McDonald's Liquor. Just go to purpleptsd.com right now. It's the top article. You'll see it on Bleacher Report or anywhere on social media. But we definitely appreciate you coming on the show again and giving us some of your insight. And we're super psyched to hang out with you for a bit on Friday and hopefully do a little bit to be a part of the Grey Duck movement and get the word out there for people and everything. So it should be a great time, and people listening can stop through this Friday, the 4th, at 5:00.
Great conversation, Chad. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's always fun to come on and chat some ball. Let's do it again here. We should do a recap of the signing. Kind of where we at 2 weeks from now. So call me back in 2 weeks. Let's do this again. We'll recap the signing, and we'll see where we're at. In those 2 weeks that we say are most important, kind of getting prepared for the bye week, that'd be a good time to have another conversation, see and kind of test the waters and where our fan base is.
Definitely.
Good idea.
We're looking forward to it. So thanks again for coming on, and we'll chat on Friday.
Sounds good, man. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks.
Joe, that was a great conversation.
That was amazing, and I will run a quick promotion of our new podcast distribution platform, I guess is the best way to put it. We're now, this show about the labor, Load the Box, our pregame show, The Smoke Break, once they start implementing video-based stuff, which is the show that I basically just get on before halftime and after games. Yeah, I basically just go on and cry. If you guys want to see a grown man weeping, that's basically what the Smoke Break is. But here is the commercial. All right, a couple of things. I mean, we're actually close to going to the full hour. That was a really, really insightful and amazing conversation with Chad. He's always so open and honest, and I really think that's helpful for as much as we. Even Joe, when you had your press pass, there's just so much that obviously we don't see as people who cover the team 24 hours a day, and just getting his insight on some of that stuff.
Joe, he was very similar when he was on the team too. I mean, he was always willing to. He's always going to give you an honest answer. He's always going to go a little more in depth, and he's articulate. He was always he understands the game very well, and I think that he goes even a little further now that he's separate from the team a little bit, and it's really fun to get his ideas on what he's seeing, and because I think he takes us a little bit further than we can get ourselves with that insight and that perspective. So it's just a gas to have him on, to be honest.
God, he's so good at it too.
Yeah,
I mean he could, and I've told him this off air, but man, if he did a show, it would instantly become the #1 show. I mean, his ability to communicate things in a way that rubes like me understand, especially, is just amazing. I would have felt really, really stupid if I was going to be like, well, I'll pump the brakes, 2-2, yeah, sure, they can win 5 or 6 games, but and I understand that, and I'm not after the fact bringing this up because I was afraid to. But I do. What?
Go ahead.
No.
He's got a player's mentality, and that's the way I think that they have to believe. And I don't think you're going to ever get that out of him, where he becomes cynical and trashing, his former teammates. And he's going to say, they experience it, they make mistakes, they try to fix it, they let it go and move on, because they got to go out there next week and put themselves on the line all over again. So if they're going to wallow in this and they're going to say, woe is me and we're done, it's like you said, they're going to be out of a job. So, I understand his perspective.
I do too. And there was one word to describe me, maybe cynical is the best one. And I know I've made a few videos about being off the Cousins bandwagon, and I don't as much, just in the scope of going back to the Bears game and the quote-unquote disaster that it was. He was pressured all day, and my concern comes from whether or not this line, with more time in the zone blocking that they do with guys that perhaps are a little bit more undersized but more athletic for zone blocking reasons, can really handle what Chicago brings. And Hicks wasn't playing, so that concerns me. Some of the discord, which I think was nipped in the bud with Thielen going on Cousins' podcast last night, I think that was important, but I think that was also a PR move. I think they knew what they were doing, or at least the team said, you guys got to make sure that, I don't think Thielen meant it that way. I think he was legitimately frustrated, and he was just...
And he walked it back, Joe, Monday morning in the locker room, to reporters as well. So, I mean, he said, he was saying like that usual line that the reporters are taking things out of context, and to a certain degree, it is. We ran with it. We got this sound bite. This is this. It's now a trend. He said this, but boom, he's a diva. There's Discord, blah, 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 blah. Well, let's back up here just a little bit. He's saying that
he's culpable in it too, though, right? Like, I think that's how I took it.
In general terms, you have to have balance, and that's what he did say. He wasn't, were they pointing it at either Cousins or Stefanski or whoever provided this lack of balance, offensive line, whoever, fine. If that falls on your doorstep, then pick it up and work with it. But yes, he absolutely said later, as you were pointing out, that he should have ran routes better. He should have done this better, and I have to look at that. So, that's kind of what I was referring to with Chad. I mean, social media, we get one soundbite and it becomes this big snowball that becomes something else. And it's good that they walked it back. It might have been a PR move, but if you want to play with each other the rest of the league, the rest of the season, you better hug it out, fellas. And it seems like they did.
And I put out there that I have been a supporter of Cousins. I do think in the right system he'll perform. I think he even. Again, to go back to the start of last season, he showed that even not as a systems guy, but a guy who had to put everything on his shoulders, he's capable of doing that, at least for a stretch. But I am concerned. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to act like he was pressured a lot and so on and so forth. He was just that game. And what frustrates me is that those games were entirely winnable games, and the Vikings with just mediocre quarterback play. And I'm not just saying quarterback. I'll say mediocre pass game play as a whole. They could and very well should, with the expectations that we had before the season, be 4-0. So my concern is that this team is nowhere near where we thought they'd be or where we want them to be. And while that's not a real thing, and those expectations are entirely subjective.
They're yours, not the players. Or
exactly.
Not
the team has invested everything. I don't. This is easily the most all-in this franchise has been in my entire life.
Doesn't guarantee anything, though, Joe. I mean, you said those were winnable games, but you know what? They were winnable for the Packers and the Bears too.
Well, and they won them.
Exactly. And one thing happened. They complete the pass, or he throws away that pass against the Packers, and they go in and score the touchdown. The Packer fans are all sitting there saying, "I'm frustrated. That was a winnable game," and that's how close things are between these teams. That's you have a chance to win those games. You're in the games. That's what you want on Sunday, and sometimes you win them, and sometimes the other team plays better. I don't subscribe to the just because they put all this money into it, and just because they're invested, and just because they have this talent, that they are going to win all those games. You still have to go out there and do it, and it doesn't always work out.
But it's supposed to. But by that logic, then why bother covering the team at all? Because it's all a crapshoot.
Because you love it.
Yeah, but I'm saying they clearly think they're within a window of opportunity to make a run, right? That's been the impetus behind everything. The Sam Bradford trade, the tinkering with the kickers. They're maxed out with the salary cap. So this is the ceiling.
Do you think so? You think they're done?
No, I think that I'm saying it's the ceiling in that they can't improve beyond this because they don't have any money.
They've got they're missing their right guard last week. They've got a rookie at center who's still learning the position. He's
I don't mean performance. I just mean that this is the team that needs to come together. They're not gonna next season isn't going to be better. Last
Why
season
not?
Because they don't have any salary cap money. They're gonna lose at least one of their corners.
Which will create salary cap money.
Yeah,
I mean, they're going to make moves. They're going to do different things. They're going to change things to keep improving the team. That's what their job is, and that's what they try to do. Now, if you think that we've hit the ceiling and we can go any farther, I disagree. They can improve next year, but they've got to make the right moves and get better. That players have to improve. They need to get a left back.
What do they need to do, though? I mean, every position on this team is filled with a really capable Pro Bowl level guy. I mean, if they can't win this way, then adding some, and the offensive line, sure, but the offensive line wasn't the problem in the Packers game. That's what concerns me. Is the Packers aren't that good, and either the Bears aren't that good either.
If they had won a Packers game, would you be sitting here saying this now? If they don't, throw an interception on 1st and 8 at the 8-yard line, first goal.
If they win games, no, I wouldn't be upset because they win games. But it depends on how they're doing it. I mean, and it all goes back to Cousins, though. It's just
Yes, it does.
They're not playing not only not well. They're playing horridly in the passing game. It's bad. Like it's really bad. To go 43% completions against the Packers, like that's not good. And we can say, well, things might change, but at this point, it's kind of piss or get off the pot time, and it just seems like. I don't know what else. I don't know how to fix it because I really think the core issue is between Cousins' ears, and I don't know what to do about it. I mean, what the team could do.
You heard Chad say, asked him about confidence, and he says, "Yeah, it's huge. You battle it every day, and the last thing you want to do is deteriorate that confidence in your quarterback by just trashing him everywhere he goes. I'm just waiting for him to go out in public if someone starts throwing eggs at him and say,
that would not surprise me.
Yeah, and that's asinine. I'm sorry, it's just stupid. A, it's a game. B, we're all invested in it, but I think emotionally, fans are probably more invested in it than the players are. They have to perform. They can't sit there and ride that coaster up and down. Cousins has to maintain. He has to keep some level of confidence and recognition of what's gotten him to this point. And know that he can do it again. I think he can. I saw him do it last year. He has to get to the space and the place where he can. Will he? We'll see.
That's the thing that scares me. I mean, I brought up the beginning of last season a bunch today, and clearly he's shown an ability to do everything that needs to be done. I mean, Chad said that too. He can make every throw. He's super accurate down the field, so on and so forth. But it's just the Packers game and the Bears game felt a lot like the last 3 weeks of last season, where they had like 10 3-and-outs in a row and everything was dysfunctional. And it just seems like even more so the Packers game because Dalvin Cook was beasting. It's just really concerning. And sure, anything can happen, but at the same time, I want these guys to win, I guess. I mean, they're somewhat accountable. I mean, that's kind of what we do here in covering them, and I just think that with the amount of money invested, and I can't imagine Zimmer maybe adding Madden style, like everyone wants Jalen Ramsey or whatever. But he's got everything he could ask for.
If he does that, then that's my first time that I start saying, okay, Zimmer, it's time to go. Yeah. If they were to do that, I was thinking that yesterday. If they add this guy, they're out of their bloody minds. So.
That would. I wrote a whole article about how stupid that was. I mean, you would be mortgaging the future. They want 2 first-round picks to start. They would probably want Diggs and two first-round picks. Like that's not. Why would you do that for a guy who would have to come in and learn the system? And it would, sure he'd be better than Trey Waynes or Xavier Rhodes, but how long would that take? And what would that mean about his confidence in the team? It's just a dumb take.
They won't, Joe. They won't.
Point being, though. The defense has all the parts that Zimmer wants, and it is playing well. 16 points, like you said. Outside of that, the start of the Packers game, they were under 9 points a game allowed. So that's not really the problem. It's going to come down to Cousins, and right now I just feel like he is having a mini meltdown in these big games or against good teams.
So that means you're predicting him to lose this weekend in New York. It's another road game.
It's a road game, but it's against a bad team, so I'm sure he'll come out and have,
They're 2-2, Joe.
I'm not too worried.
They're in second place in the NFC East. So, how bad are they? They've got a great running back, perhaps the best one in the league, sitting.
Where did he go to school?
Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. Can you see what I'm doing right now, or no?
Big Ten. Yeah, whatever. The point being is they aren't as bad as they were last year. They're not great. The Vikings had better win. They should win. And if they don't, like I said in my preview, I said win or go home. Because if they lose that one, which was and before the season, you looked at it as we got to have that game. That's one of the road games we can steal. They don't get that one. They are in a big hurt for a long time here. So it's tougher as we go. Especially the road schedule. They got to go to KC. They got to go to Dallas. You know, those are tough games, and they got to go to Detroit, which is suddenly not the easiest game in the world either. So,
yeah, the division is definitely. I mean,
the league is tough, but by the other side of you got to rant about your thing. Well, listen to this: we're only one game out of first place in the division and the conference. Zimmer's right. I'm sorry.
Wouldn't it be 2 games with the tiebreaker? But.
Okay.
Devil's advocate, though, what difference does one...
Yes, it would be.
What difference would... Never mind. I was just going to be a jerk. Anyway, no, I was just going to say...
Shut her down. We'll shut her down. Why are we even covering this team? That's right. They lost to the Bears on the road. Shut it down, Joe.
It's not that they lost. It's how they lost.
It doesn't matter how they lost, ultimately.
It does if it's like a pattern.
That's what I just said. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a pattern. It's a week-to-week league. It really is. Things change. My God, you had Tampa Bay beat the defending NFC champs last week. When they played like crap before that, you had Buffalo beating almost, giving the Patriots everything they could handle. And you've got, until this week, the Steelers were 0-3. So, I mean, it's just like, it's week to week, fellas. You just got to hang in there.
But you just said if they lose to the Giants, it's bad.
I did.
But
I agree.
If it's week to week, then what difference does it make?
Don't turn my words against me.
And with that, this is the last episode ever of Morning Joe's. I really do hope that people listening come out on Friday. This is like the first. Fun. What?
It's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah, definitely. We've thrown events in the past, draft party stuff, viewing parties against I think what was legal for the NFL, but no one needs to talk about that. But this is the first event that a former player is involved in, and so we're really hoping that people will stop out. From my understanding, and I got this cleared with Chad. You could bring one item from home to autograph as well. So if you're wearing a jersey, he will sign that. You will have to buy a bottle of Grey Duck Vodka for it to be signed, though. So you can't just show up and get a jersey autographed. You have to buy a bottle. But like I said, they're really reasonably priced. Beyond that, though, there will be at least one beer to taste, a lot of wine to taste.
We're hoping to get Mankato Brewery there.
I'm really hoping the Purple Rain is out.
Yep, Purple Rain's out.
It's from all the feedback I've solicited. People love it, and it's perfect for this time of year for the season. There'll be a silent auction of some really really cool stuff. If people are watching the webcam, I have a autographed picture of right here. You can't really see it. Of Stephon Diggs crossing the goal line during the Minneapolis Miracle. There'll be those. There'll be autographed Adam Thielen Funko Pops, those bobbleheads that everyone likes. There'll be 2 tables worth of stuff. Some of the coolest stuff you've ever seen, going as far back as the Purple People Eater days. Autographed, one of those jerseys with all 4 of their numbers on it that says Purple People Eaters. It's just going to be really, really cool. And we'll be doing a raffle. Tickets to Deep Purple, a band from Joe's era. They're doing a concert at the Coliseum. Is that what that's? What is that? The Armory.
Yeah, yes, the Armory. And Joe's going to do a smoke on the water break. Sorry.
So yeah, I'm hoping people will stop out for that. I think I might. It depends, but we might do some live streaming on Friday from there. A smoke break, perhaps with Mr. Greenway. But apparently he's coming back before the bye, which is super cool. I think he enjoys spending time with us because we are the coolest guys in the game.
It was nice to hear him say that. It's much more fun to do a deep dive on something like this rather as opposed to the radio. I mean, he goes on KFan quite a bit, but I'm sure their segments are sliced up and they have all these certain things they want to do. But here,
Yep.
we got to plumb a little further into the mind of Chad Greenway and find out exactly what he thinks of the Vikings. So that's kind of fun that he enjoys it and that he wants to come back.
Yeah, this is a top moment in my experience covering the Vikings. It's been really cool, and it should end with a really great week. So go to purpleptsd.com. You'll see the article about the event. You can RSVP on Facebook. You don't necessarily have to RSVP, but we'd appreciate it so we have an idea how many people are going to be there. But yeah, 5 o'clock, I'd show up around 4:45 because I assume there's going to be a line, but you'll be able to taste some Grey Duck too. So there's you might want to Uber there in retrospect. But we will be back next Tuesday. I will be doing my show, The Smoke Break, before the game, halftime, and after the game on Sunday. And we should be doing a pregame show now that we are on the Big Heads Media Network as well.
And what's your prediction, Joe? I've got my line.
Snap.
24-13 Vikings. Just give the score quickly because you are down within 3 points of me. I've tallied it all.
Oh, wow. I'm going to say 28-17.
Vikings?
Yeah.
All right.
I want to
There it
go.
is.
I have a feeling they might do. It might. Well, we'll see. It'll be in the score. My elaborate thoughts will be in the score prediction article that we do every weekend. But with that, this has been Morning Joe's. This is for Wednesday, October. It's already October. What is going on? October 2nd, 2019. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and Skol.